Over the weekend, the entire Time's Up board, including celebrities like Eva Longoria and Shonda Rhimes, resigned after weeks of turmoil over the organization's advising of former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo over sexual harassment allegations. In a statement, the board acknowledged the current crisis, saying, quote, "Time's Up is ready for new leadership, and we want to move forcefully towards its new iteration."
President of the Human Rights Campaign, Alphonso David, was fired over the weekend for advising the former governor. David worked as chief counsel to Cuomo from 2015 to 2019. According to New York Attorney General Letitia James' August 3rd report, David released Cuomo accuser Lindsey Boylan's personnel files in late 2020 when asked to do so by former top Cuomo aide Melissa DeRosa. In a statement posted to Twitter, David called his ousting unjust and threatened legal action. Later, he followed up, writing, quote, "We need to end this bullying." This is just amazing. I'm so shocked to discover that all these people, who purport to be in service of progressive feminism, were covering for Cuomo, who is despicable all along. Yes, this is in my view, a much-deserved reckoning. And I find it hilarious that he wants to make this out to be a legal matter. But there is some justice in the universe, maybe, that all these people have to resign in embarrassment or be fired.
It's time's up for time's up. Right. Do you think it's over? Or do you think new leadership?
I think they got to do a new organization. I mean, and I think the new board will conclude that. I think, if they bring in a new board, I think the new board will say, you know what, this brand has been tanked, and we need a new one, and we need a new direction. You need to keep political operatives out of this type of operation, because you're going to go after people who are at the height of power, and who are involved in politics. And so, if you're also getting side income or your primary income, from those people, that's going to create conflicts of interest that lead to exactly this situation. The Alphonso David situation is fascinating because he, over the weekend, he came out with a statement saying the HRC board is trying to pressure me into resigning quietly over the Labor Day weekend, but I'm going to fight for my job. Resigning quietly over the Labor Day weekend is exactly what the entire Time's Up board did. Whenever you have a 3-day weekend, that's when you can look for a whole bunch of dirty news to be dumped. The Friday and Saturday of that weekend, people are going to try to get their dirty laundry and toss it out. The Time's Up put its announcement out on Saturday, just hoping nobody's going to notice this by Tuesday. Alphonso David thought he could fight it. He learned that he could not, and so they tried to get him quietly out over the weekend. He said no, and so boom, Monday night, Tuesday morning, they just straight up fired him.
And it just really calls into question these types of organizations and how effective they actually can be. I mean, we all want them to be very effective, but the problem is that you need people in positions of power almost to take down other people in positions of power to be able to call attention to some of their crimes or misdeeds or misbehaviors. And the problem is that when you then get people with, loud voices, maybe they be celebrities or maybe they be political operatives or even journalists that have positions of power, they are rubbing elbows with these people and they are becoming friends with them. And then they don't want to take down their friends and they don't want to go after those people that they're going to dinner parties with and whatnot. And so it just becomes this sort of this real problem of who do you get to lead these organizations who are not going to fall into that same trap.
Well, and this is my entire kind of criticism with some aspects, some of the more militancy of the kind of Me Too movement, where it was more about, for some, not everyone, but for some people involved in it, it was more about score settling. So you're covering for your friends, people in power whom you like or employ you or you work with. And so you're doing that inappropriately. And then you're also going after, in a really unnecessary and harsh way, rival people in media or people who are, had bad breakups with friends you like, who maybe did something wrong but is of a lesser offense or has not been litigated in any sort of due process way, but is instead just operating at the level of media gossip. That was stuff we saw with a lot of the Me Too reporting, not just on famous people, but just on like random bloggers being accused of things. And again, there was some really bad conduct happening, and that had to come to light. But it's like, it's very important to punish the people I hate, and then the person who's governor of New York, we're going to privately advise him on how to handle this very delicate, sensitive situation. And it's just so hypocritical, really hypocritical.
Yeah, and there's a lot of pressure on this issue around what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. Last March, I wrote a story saying that Tara Reade had come to Time's Up looking for help in coming forward with her allegation against then candidate Joe Biden, and was told by Time's Up that they could not take her case, not because they didn't believe her, but because Joe Biden was a candidate for federal office and they were a 501c3 nonprofit, and therefore just simply couldn't get involved. So after writing that story, I haven't gotten more help for any story that I've ever written in my life, and a lot of the pieces I've done have taken on extremely powerful figures in ways they very much did not want to see in print. But that one, somebody even seeded a story with the Washington Post about the fact that I wrote that story. Like it was like nothing. It was like nothing I've ever seen, and it was presenting what to me on its face seemed like, well, this is a rather interesting story that this organization. That is structured to do this thing, says it can't do this thing when it comes to politicians. We're seeing now that the conflict was too much to bear, but what it required was the entire kind of political world agreeing that the person deserved to go down, and that was the difference between Cuomo.
And the Time's Up, and people, activists like them, always maintained that the standard for adjudicating these kinds of issues is automatic belief in anyone who comes forward with a claim. And that I've always said that was an untenable standard, not because there's a tremendous amount of deceit, but there's some deceit on any issue, not sexual harassment, but any issue. There's going to be deceitful people. So you can't have we will absolutely presume it's true. But Biden couldn't survive that standard. He wouldn't have been able to in the Reade situation, but it's the one he advocated, and it's one all these kinds of Me Too type organizations have advocated. And then, of course, behind the scenes, they weren't practicing that. And it makes sense because you can't actually have that standard. Right. So I hope we put that to bed.
It was kind of like a paradigm shifting slogan, like abolish the police, where you kind of back up after immediately after you say defund the police. You say, well, I don't mean completely defund the police. Right. And it's believe women. Well, I don't mean believe every. Right. I mean, it's criminal justice reform and do that, and then you're like, okay, fine, I agree with it then if that's what you mean by it.
Right. Tomorrow on Rising, we'll be back with friends of the show, Brianna Joy Gray, Max Alvarez, and Henry Rogers. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any of our new videos, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.